Fair Tinfoil Realist, not Theorist, here with the legendary Illuminati Congo. Mr. I see what's going on.
Yo, I'm happy to be building with the legend yourself, Tinfoil. It's been a
Uh,
long time. We've been grinding through this bear, huh?
it has been a bear. It has been grind. Today, nice little green day. We had a nice little green dildo happen just within the last hour or so. So that was nice. Expecting some more red tomorrow. I was reading a couple trade analysis of it, and guys had actually expected Bitcoin to hit 17.2 before this meeting, and then Jerome Powell speaks tomorrow. We'll probably speak hawkish, so it's a bit of a little fake pump, but yeah, it feels like it's this is an interesting topic because with the market, because we're all so connected with the internet and social media and all this stuff, and now we're getting into like kind of the group investing. Um, it feels like the market's always going to be able to predict things and price things in ahead of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's. I was thinking about it because uh, there was even a Reddit post talking about how it was a joke post, but it was like everything is priced in. Like no matter what you can name, like it is priced in because the market is kind of like the all seeing eye, especially as how connected we are today. Um, so the idea of people having kind of tips behind the scenes, uh, yeah, it's really interesting to think about.
How do we
uh
get those tips?
I know, right? I know. It's funny because I was in meetings when I was doing the construction stuff, and I was in a kind of walked into a meeting with a bunch of clients, and these clients are just another level of wealth, and they were talking about buying Coinbase stock. This was like 6 months before we knew that Coinbase was going public. And it was like, these guys, they've got the ins. Um, yeah. Did you get bunged up in the FTX stuff at all?
No, I don't think it affected me at all. Besides just the overall market. No.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm seeing. I know it's crazy the market effects that it's all had because you've seen. Is it Genesis has been having some serious issues. BlockFi filed bankruptcy. There's like over 130 different companies I think that are filing bankruptcy. We're still kind of waiting for I think some of the effects to play out. But again, it does feel like all of it is priced in. Like we've been the sentiment on Twitter has been unbelievably bearish, which is kind of bullish at the same time because you
Right.
go like, man, if this couldn't kill crypto, like we're all expecting some kind of regulations, and to be honest, I think we're all expecting like predatory regulations.
hmm Well, the way, yes and no, because the way uh that Sam Bankman that SBF was setting up his law, the bill that they was trying to push, and he just got swatted down. Uh, maybe they'll be using him as the fall guy, but it's just interesting that the he still was trying to push some of those more oppressive uh, regulations in crypto, and so it to try to use this situation as another push for more regulations is it's weird to me, but yeah, I understand your point for sure.
Yeah, because I think in the end, like we know regulations coming at some point, and again, I think most just because of the people in the positions of power, like in government, aren't the brightest of the bunch.
Right.
uh it ends up being predatory regulations where and it's just, I mean, most government programs in general, it's always like a lovely idea, and then in practice it's a failure and a half. um yeah, the SPF stuff's been really interesting. This has been a crazy week because you got Bitboy is kind of turning his new hero arc on, where he's one of the guys that I actually watched a lot of when I first got into crypto.
Yeah.
Um, and I think with any of those like really big influencers, I mean, it's important not to look up to any influencer as a god. Like you have
Right.
to listen to a lot of them. If you just follow all of BitBoy's calls, I'm sure there was a few that you probably got Jude on. Um, but that, I mean, that's how it goes. Like he's an influencer; he gets paid to do this stuff. But
Yeah.
to see the way him turn and do this hunt down of SBF, this has been funny to watch.
Well, that's what's funny to me is that his original branding was like, this Bit Boy superhero thing, and now he's out really trying to do that. Uh, if it's completely real, like I'm always questioning everything. Like at
Right.
this point, he could be part of the WWF show, but I I fairly trust his sincerity in some of these matters, but just before this, like the crypto heat was on him
Mhm.
for his some of his actions, and yes, they pale in comparison to what FTX and SBF and some of these other people have been on, but it's just wild how some of that stuff just completely vanished and no one's even thinking about it no more because they people have been able to find a common enemy and sort of put the other dramas behind.
Yeah, you're 100% right. I think, and that's why he's kind of used it as an opportunity. Um, Now, this is a topic on its own because I've seen a few people. I think the crypto community is, I would say, standing back from a political spectrum. I would say the majority of the crypto community is right leaning, and then you have uh, a good chunk of like heavy left leaning people that kind of came in through maybe the NFT culture, the art culture. Um, I've been seeing a lot of those people kind of have these. It's almost like that fucking light bulb moment where to the media, to the people that hated Trump and they hate the right and the fake news statements and all that stuff, to be buried in crypto and know exactly what's going on, and then to see the way the news has handled SBF uh, has really been a light bulb moment for a lot of people, and even for conspiracy guys like us. I mean, it just kind of cements your feet in the ground that much more, where you're like, really? Like I'm watching this play out live now
Yeah,
in
some of
in
those
what we would call our expertise now.
right, some of those articles are just evidence that those news publications are working in concert with this greater machine, and like I can't, because I don't have a bunch of information to present right now about how it's all connected. I'm not going to make a whole bunch of uh, statements and theories, but we saw where that money was going with FTX, like Ukraine and Democratic Party. Uh, and those are the same people who own most of these media outlets, as far as the people connected to the Democratic Party, uh, that are pushing these weird stories about SBF. And I can't believe that they would even do that. It's like the Onion. Like I really thought it was the Onion or some type of satirical parody articles being made. I did not think those was real articles when I first seen them.
No, honestly, well, I think we all expected, because again, I think most of us know that when regulation comes, it's not going to be, for us. Um, so I think when this happened, I think we all expected him to be the face of like, what is a jail sentence going to look like? You know what I mean? Like, what if Coinbase fell? What would Brian Armstrong's fucking deal be? You know, uh, and then to see the spin on the story, like I think again, it goes back to like makes you think about everything. It's like, oh shit, how
Well,
fast was your rise? How, like
that takes us
people
back
dove
to
into all the connections.
yeah, that takes us back to the whole Kyrie and Kanye thing was spun over
Mm.
those time. Even still till now, it's just like you can watch the media decide what they're going to make as an enemy, and then they can get everybody on their side so quickly, and no one slows down to take a moment to think about it, to investigate other perspectives. People just jumping in to virtue signal pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, you're 100% right. Um, I do find it. Yeah, it's just been wild to watch play out. Really, the fact that like, the journalists we're watching crypto Twitter, you know, kind of become a bit of a center of attention because I think there's a lot of people sitting outside who go like, okay, that's not the real story. I have crypto friends and they're telling me this guy needs to be fucking put like, in jail for life.
right.
Yet New York Times is telling me that, he's the next Warren Buffett and just accidentally did this. Oopsies. Um, so yeah, I think people are kind of waking up, and then you've got so many things going on where the Elon Twitter, like the daily user growth that we're seeing on Twitter. You've got Elon, Snowden, you name it. Some of the biggest names on Twitter have been like heavily interacting with crypto Twitter over the last few weeks. Like, to the point that I think most people think that one of the big influencer accounts is a Snowden like alt account. Uh, yeah, so it's cool to see people make this move to Twitter almost for some of this like FTX information.
Hmm.
And now,
And people moving over there just because they're like, oh, this seems like this might be a beacon of free speech now. A lot of these corporations are pulling out; they're getting upset. So I've seen a lot of my anarchist family who wasn't really a part of Twitter before. They're starting to pop in now, like, "Hey, I'm on Twitter again now, guys. Hi."
yeah, well, this is being a great topic to be on because uh, the way Elon's kind of been going at Apple the last couple days, that the
I
fact
just
that they're looking at removing Twitter from their app store.
I just got the
Um,
update term sent to my phone just now, and I was looking at it, and a lot of it was related to apps and things of that nature. And I didn't have the time to look all the way through it, but I know they try. I know it has something to do with whatever they're trying to prepare themselves for if they need to go to war.
so I mean, this is crazy, right? Like you have, and to me, it's so mind blowing that all of this fight is over like it's like the power structure. Like one thing slipped away from the power structure, and that one thing that slipped away, it's like now you just see the war happening to try to get it back and to just shut it down. Um, yeah, the way Elon is being attacked through the news. Again, it goes back to this SBF. Like you're seeing SBF like lauded as like just a kid that accidentally did wrong. Meanwhile, Elon is like they're equating him to Satan in articles. It's like, man, I don't know. It's so clear. Now, how long does it take for this to get to the mainstream person? For the everyday person, how long does it take for the everyday person to make
And
Twitter their
mm,
their news source, basically?
well, the everyday person, it depends on what that is because you have everyday people who are like they have common sense and logic, and then you have everyday people who are more, they just take whoever's word for it, whoever can be considered the authority or the expert that gives them the best advice. They weren't taught to think logically or to think freely. So, and those are two types of common people. So I think the ones who can think freely for themselves, who are able to, you know, embrace other perspectives than their own, and really like investigating and conversing and considering on other perspectives besides the ones they hold most true. Those people go over there. But as we see, the people who consider themselves woke, consider themselves supporters of the newest virtue thing to support, they're gonna flee, and I don't know, maybe Facebook will be their thing.
See,
Facebook and Snapchat.
this is where it's been interesting to watch because they say they're gonna flee, but I haven't seen any of them leave yet because it's like
Oh,
continuous tweeting about leaving, every day. And so I think there's a power to that.
yeah.
Like I do think there's a real power to that because they're not going to delete the app. There is no deleting. I'm not going to delete my account. I'm not going to delete the app. Um, and the big thing that Elon kind of has mentioned in trying to build this new Twitter is like, you know, open sourcing these algorithms, letting people know what algorithm you're in. Like at least let me know that I'm deep into an algorithm, like uh so to me it becomes interesting, like, and I mean, if Elon does it right, and I think he is planning on doing that with video and all this stuff, but it almost it almost acts like a newspaper. Twitter becomes a newspaper again,
Mhm.
where everybody gets to go for the information, but you can take it whatever way you want. You can be in the woke algorithm that tells you, you know, this side of the story, and then you for once in a while, because it's been quite a long time now, but now you actually get to see the other side of the story
Right, which
right
is
that right then and
all
there.
we've been asking for. Just all we've been asking for is for all sides to be represented, and it's so wild that it's such an issue for people for all sides to be represented. It's because they feel there's going to be some inherent bias or unfairness towards whatever Elon is focused on. But why weren't you ever concerned about that prior? It, with the people who were directing Twitter.
Mm,
It's just the fake outrage and the way people carry on nowadays about these things. It just shows that anti-bullying culture and all that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't like bullies. Well, I don't like. There's no need for that type of thing. But the people have been made soft. People have been made weak. People have been made where they words hurt them. When I was little,
Sticks and
you know,
stones may break my bones, but words would never hurt me.
I thought like that was one of our main mantras. Like you had to know that because people talk crazy, and you just you had to know how to move forward. You really had to know how to roast. Like
Mhm.
not even just say that to yourself. You really had to know how to roast somebody back. Play the dozens or whatever. And nowadays, nobody know how to do that, and everyone's over here getting butt hurt about nothing. And it's a sign of the times.
Well, that's the scary thing about the removal of privacy, right? Because um, I think like people are the same as they used to be. Like I think everybody, I like you talk about that whole roasting culture. Yeah, that roasting culture created some of the best comedians to ever live, and I
Hmm.
think as there's been so much like politicization, cancellations, all this stuff, I think comedy is starting to go through another golden age. I think you're seeing some of the best specials ever are starting to come out. I think Ari Shafir just released his special Jew, and I honestly think it's one of the greatest comedy specials ever.
I'm gonna have
Uh,
to check it. I
it's
just seen
amazing.
one by Bill Bellamy, yo, and it was tight. Like, so I'm gonna be real. When the comedians have anything to say that lends any validity to big pharma, I'm always a little. I don't care how funny they are. I'm always, because I've had too much. I've had too many people try to push that agenda. So
Mm.
you could be the funniest person if you saying anything that's pushing a big pharma agenda even slightly. Uh, I think you probably on a payroll or have become an agent inadvertently and you don't even know it. So when I see comedians know how to speak to these topics, it it really matters to me because that's what real comedy is. It's the people
Mm.
who aren't afraid to go against the masses. And now that the masses have been brainwashed or educated, indoctrinated, whatever you want to call it, into accepting big pharma science, big pharma medical procedures, it really matters to me when there's comedians who are willing to stand up against that huge machine that has a lot of money to cancel anybody who says anything against them. Just like what happened with Kanye recently with Adidas and
Yeah.
Balenciaga.
Yeah. Okay. These are all topics on the board. So, which one you
I
want to do
know that's why I
first?
wanted. Let's do the Balenciaga right now, G.
Yeah. Okay. So, for me, this is also interesting because, to me, this stuff doesn't get noticed if America and the world doesn't go through its QAnon phase. I think that kind of 4 year QAnon phase of the save the children, wake the people up, you know, look for the symbolism. You had some massive influencer accounts that had some of the biggest tweets ever that were just showcasing symbolism that celebrities and shit use or companies use. Uh, then that feeds kind of right into the Epstein stories. So then the Epstein arrest happens, the Maxwell arrest happens, you know, so now there's like a legitimacy to some of the shit that, all those people were kind of digging into. And now you got a whole shit ton of people that are kind of just looking out for this stuff now.
Right.
And you can't just sneak this shit by us anymore. Remember Microsoft earlier this year, or maybe it was late last year, had tried to do some fucking 3 minute advertisement with Marina Abramovich, who is like the kind of Satanist dinner party girl that works with
You're
all
doing
of
like
them.
the Met Gala rituals and
Yeah. Uh, and people were like, and it was like basically Twitter raids that were like, yo, what the fuck is this? Are you really trying this now? Um, that reached the point that Microsoft went, okay, yeah, we take down the ad, this and that. So sure enough, you got this same thing kind of happened with Balenciaga. For people watching that don't know, Balenciaga was basically it was pictures of little kids on beds with like the teddy bears were in like bondage, and it's kind of some wild shit where you're like, this is super fucking uncomfortable,
some
and like, why you
weird
got to use these little.
gift bags with blood all in them and little bondage teddy bear stuff in there too that
So
they
then
be
there was
giving out.
the bag that was like, I've seen the one picture where the bag's laying on a little court document of pedophilia. It was one of the it's I
Yeah.
forget what the case was, but it's a big case that was trying to kind of make pedophilia okay. Uh,
Hmm.
and like that court document, like I I I, I took broadcasting
That's
and
another thing.
go ahead,
Go
Congo.
ahead.
Oh, see, I was
Well, I
gonna
was
say
just gonna say that's another.
I took broadcasting in college, and like that shit is so everything is so planned out to a T. Where I put my cup in the background, like that is everything is so planned out.
Hmm.
That had to pass. That
Yeah,
had to pass checks.
yeah. It's not just gonna be sitting there for no reason. In a major publication and a major photo shoot. Nothing of that sort.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting. Um, now it's been funny. It's been cool to see that like the obviously the people have the power through social media to like shut down ad campaigns. Balenciaga was very quick to pull that ad campaign and very quick to shift blame on whoever they pay to do their advertising. Um, Nonetheless, this had to pass checks. So now they're suing some company 25 million for creating that ad campaign. Meanwhile, like you name it, dive into Vogue, dive into any of these big magazines. Um, I mean, just when you think about that whole culture alone, like one of the biggest magazines in magazine culture is like your Playboys. Victoria's Secret is obviously a fucking massive part of all of that. And the creator, Les Wexner, is like that dude is depicted as like worse than Epstein by one of Epstein's victims. And like that's the dude that funded like gave him a bunch of funding and you gave him a huge house downtown Manhattan. And it's like, man, this shit is so fucking deep. And especially in that industry.
And relating back to the comedians too, I don't give them a pass either when they think they making funny jokes with they little pedo jokes that they make.
Mm,
Like, see, that's one of the other things that a lot of these comedians they got so much skills, but now that cancel culture is a thing, they're like, okay, well, let me try to push everything. Like people trying to push these edges that if if you really like George Carlin, he he did comedy from a space that I stand for because he was always anti-establishment, anti-oppression, and he's not gonna joke about a thing that could be anywhere close to uh to some type of pedophilia joke. Like
mm,
that's one thing that some of these comedians they need to get checked for nowadays too.
yeah.
I have to admit it's been distasteful to see some of my favorite. I'm mentioning it because it's some of my favorites who I never would have thought they would have done. I'm not gonna mention no names.
Yeah.
You'll hear it in your own when you watching it.
No, it's funny you say this because I'm literally just listening to a podcast today. I see Browns boy in the chat here earlier mentioned Owen Benjamin, who I'm a big fan of. But I listened to Sam Tripoli, and he's got a show with Brian Callen called Conspiracy Social Club. So they bring up a conspiracy topic. Callen's not a conspiracy guy, so they just bicker at each other on this topic, and it's fucking awesome. I love their friendship. But yeah, that had came up about they were talking about kind of free speech and all this stuff, and Sam had brought up like look, I fucking hate like pedo jokes and shit like that. Like, he goes, but I'll always stand up for someone's right to say anything. And he goes, but that shit is the worst. Like, you can't think of any easier way to punch down is to make a joke like that. So right on topic what you're saying. I think there's an aspect to there's a way we can check them for sure. Um,
Mhm.
but the idea of yeah, no censorship of anything, right?
Yep.
Um, which it's been awesome to see like people waking up to this, man. Like the Twitter feels so alive. Like we still have not seen the Trump tweet yet. Everybody is still waiting on that. Um,
You
I've
think
already
he gonna do it, or he gonna stick with his own thing?
so I've heard rumors. It was just a little Twitter rumor that Elon was gonna just buy out Truth. Because and when you think about the rumor, it makes sense both ways because Trump's got to get something out of Truth, or it's another failed business venture, and the media fucking goes nuts on it. You know what I mean? So he's got to get something out of it. And Trump on Twitter is, I mean, that's money for Elon. Like that's everything
Right,
for Elon, right?
right.
So Elon wants Trump back. You got two egos going at it. Um, I'm glad you brought up Trump though, because there's some interesting shit going on with the Republican Party right now. Uh, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm seeing I'm seeing a big split with him and DeSantis now. I think the way that I think him taking shots at DeSantis right before the election uh, didn't look good on Trump at all. And then DeSantis, I mean, just landslide victory in a state that is like Florida's a purple state, from my understanding. Like it's not a red state. Um, to get 85% of the vote. I mean, that's a massive showcase of like the people like you.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, I F with DeSantis. Out of everyone who I'm hearing, he's the only person who I'm like, yo, he probably can help things get sort of on track.
well, and it's interesting, right? Because like I would love to see Trump do another four. You know, at the same time, at the same time, it's like, do I think these he can't? It's not like anybody can change the elections. While they're in power. You know what I mean? So to think that the same shit wouldn't happen in the next election,
Right.
if it's even close, it's not going the way I want it to go. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's like, and Trump just brings out those fucking voters that are just the people I hate in this world, the biggest bitches that they just vote against something, right? Um, so
Right.
he brings out all of those voters. DeSantis doesn't do that. To me, like DeSantis doesn't have the Trump rhetoric, so he doesn't bring out those voters.
Hmm.
Because if I say I like Trump, like you could find a bunch of different random reasons why you can hate me because you think I like Trump for whatever random reason that you don't like. DeSantis, it's not so easy to do that. You can't just label somebody a racist or this and that for liking DeSantis.
Hmm.
Um, So he becomes an interesting option. And then you've also got Kanye in the mix. And I think Kanye is is hurting Trump a little bit right now. Um cuz Kanye's rolling with Nick Fuentes, who I know is a massive guy in the whole MAGA movement. Um who got so big in the MAGA movement that media did its thing with labeling him a right-wing Nazi, racist, all this stuff, to the point that like Trump had to distance himself from that.
Hmm.
So now, Kanye's just at the point where he's just balls to the wall, doesn't give a shit anymore. Uh, so he's working with this Fuentes guy. They show up to that dinner or whatever at Mar-a-Lago. Kanye puts out a tweet talking about, I went to dinner with this guy. Uh, to me, it was almost like a little test on Trump. Like, are you gonna ride? Are you gonna ride with your base or not? And it was a clear showcase of like, no, I'm not gonna ride with my base.
Hmm.
Um, so I think Trump's losing what a lot of the people that kind of maybe came into his movement or voted for him originally when it was
Yeah.
like this dude's gonna change the system. I think he's losing a lot of those people to
Yeah. Yeah.
DeSantis.
Yeah, and he lost a lot of them just towards the end of his term when he could have done a little more to 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 help the situation, but he just it seemed like he just stepped stepped out and gave up, retreated or whatnot after a while. So. I think he lost a lot of people then.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I think he's losing more and more. I don't know. This is also where I think, if Elon does sit back and wait, Trump's going to need Twitter. Trump needs Twitter if he wants to, you know, win an
Yeah,
election. He's
yeah.
going to need to be on Twitter. You can't just tweet from fucking truth and expect to get anyone outside of, your right vote. Um,
Did you see today the news that the Federal Reserve is making it illegal for retail purchases of XRP?
I did see something about this because was it the Coinbase wallet that also made it you're not allowed to
To
hold.
hold that, or Stellar and a few other ones that are, and they said that was just because people don't use it much. But the fact that there was this other announcement related to XRP and the Federal Reserve, that was really interesting to me. But the language of it, like, I really want to go check the official language of it. But the language I saw, first and foremost, said what I said, that retail buyers, it's illegal for them. But what about commercial buyers? What about wholesale? What about institutional bank buying of XRP? All I don't know. Like, to me, it seems like it's a way to FUD retail out, but
This was
quite possible.
this this is how I originally learned about XRP, was the conspiracy that it was like going to be bankers coin, and that this was the one that all the banks were going to be using as their payment system and everything like that. So it's interesting because it does play back into that mindset where it's like, yeah, you could shut off access to the outside. Now it's interesting. I don't know how this SEC case is going. Um,
Especially after library.
so that's my problem. Is because of the library thing. I thought Ripple was kicking the SEC's ass until library lost, and then it was like, oh fuck, because now there's a precedent that you can work off. Like definitely helps the SEC having won against Libra. So to part of me thinks that it could be front running bad news, um, maybe, but at the same time, I think crypto's going to be going through a fucking run. I don't see a good situation with the dollars right now in the world. I just don't. China's falling apart. Like Europe's falling apart. I just don't. it- You know, the U.S. dollar strength is off of the debt, which everybody knows they ain't paying at this point. So it's like, well, why the fuck are we using your dollar then? If a strong dollar hurts the rest of the world, uh, yeah, I don't see a bull case for dollars in the world right now. You got every central bank talking about releasing central bank digital currencies or some kind of CBDC pilot program within the next like year. I know Canada, we're expected to have it within the next year, our first CBDC pilot program. So yeah, to me, it could
I
be
know
a
Eras.
little bit of front running where yeah, you shut off retail, scoop up at the low prices.
The way the language was, it seemed like that, but who knows? You never know in these things. I got a little bag of XRP, few XRP NFTs on the XRPL. I'll see what it do, but with this, like, I'm definitely fudded. If they
Mm,
definitely flooded my bags, I'm a
mm,
slow up as far
mm,
as collecting anymore.
mm. Yeah, the Phantom news was nice. I've been seeing some of the big influencers starting to mention Phantom, which is good. Might lead us to rising up the rankings here. Andre, I was it Andre that released the article talking about basically what the foundation did with their funds over the last year,
Mhm.
Um, turns out uh, our boys are fucking hella good traders and farmers. Uh, they essentially played the market perfectly, sold at the top, and they farmed a shit ton during the bull, sold at the top, and now they sit on it's like 400 million phantom, which is like 14% of the supply, which in comparison to other chains and what their foundations hold of their own tokens is like really really low. Um, and now they got and then they sit on what they said 30-year runway. Um, so that I mean that's awesome,
Yeah.
especially when you hear that news. It's good to hear that news. It's funny to think that just slight slightly good money management is bullish news after the last couple weeks when we realize a $32 billion company was run by a fucking orgy house.
Man. So one thing I keep thinking about now is like proof of work and proof of stake. I keep thinking about like is is the green movement gonna make the proof of stake coins more uh, in use and in the proof of works get regulated out? That would mean like a Bitcoin
Th- I think
could
they're
get
gonna try
regulated,
that.
or are people who recognize like, okay, well, proof of work means that you actually have to do work for this coin to
Mhm.
be produced. So is that's a little more solid and decentralized if everyone can contribute to doing this work with just their computer or certain hardware or whatever. I just wonder like what the narrative is there going to be a double narrative down the road in crypto of some people just value proof of work coins, some circles only value proof of stake coins, and
Well, so I
uh,
think this was. I think they're like. I think they already tried this attack on Bitcoin a little bit because uh, and what the attack vector was the fungibility by labeling bitcoins as green bitcoins or not green bitcoins. That's like the Kevin O'Leary's. The Kevin O'Leary's working very closely with the SBFs of the world.
right.
Those dudes were pushing those regulations. Uh, Now that's not trying to regulate out crypto, but that is a direct attack on the fungibility of Bitcoin because now a dirty Bitcoin is not the same as a green Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Um,
And then
so I think
who? Right. Then someone becomes the centralized body who determines what's a green Bitcoin and
dictates.
what's not, and then Bitcoin
Yeah,
is no
yeah.
longer decentralized.
So this is where I'm like still super Bitcoin maxi because to me, proof of stake is it's just digitizing today's system of more money, more power. The more money you have, the more governance you have. Except now it's on a blockchain, so everybody gets to kind of see what's going on. But in terms of what we just watched with FTX, yeah, maybe it's not a good idea either. Um, we're not. It's almost like everybody expects everybody else to look at the blockchain and stuff. So nobody actually dives into looking at things, and then all of a sudden when things fucking crash, you're like, oh shit, there was so many back doors that we had no idea of. It's like, well, I
Mhm.
thought you looked at the code. No, I thought you looked at the code. You know what I mean? So to me, proof of stake is more money, more power, just digitized. I do have a problem with that system. Uh,
So
that's where I'm
it has to be done really wisely, sustainably. However, like that's the so I don't know if I have the mental capacity yet, but I'm strengthening my uh, thinking skills to be able to understand which ones are which proof of stake coins are truly set up with tokenomics that can uh, that can thrive in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all a fucking gamble in the end when it comes to the proof of stake ones. Uh, the proof of work ones, I think, like that's the Bitcoin bull case, right? Is the fact that you know the it takes more than you need more than the energy of a country to take over the network. A China can't take over the network if they tried. You know, it's already reached that point, and then you've got the what I hate is the attack on it's the green energy attack on Bitcoin, where it's like, oh, it's boiling the oceans, and that comes from a lot of within crypto, and it's the bag holders of all the proof of stake tokens that go, oh yeah, my network's green energy, this and that, and it's like, okay, your network didn't get a country to tap a volcano and pull out an energy that we've never used before ever in like human history. We never thought to just use volcanic energy for that. And
Well,
now,
I did. I did created that invention when I was a teen, but I just didn't have the resources to fund it. But you're right, though it is a fairly new technology.
you know what I mean? So like the idea of it's I think about Canada, like just my country alone, we should be a Bitcoin mecca. Half our country is covered in snow all the time. A majority of the costs in Bitcoin mining is just keeping your shit cool. So half of our country could sustain, like, has the weather to just naturally keep your computers cool. We've got 23 active volcanoes across our country that we could be fucking tapping like motherfuckers, mining
You could even
Bitcoin.
tap the snow,
We
tap the
have
snow water runoff, turn it into hydroelectric. There's so many ways.
we're one of the biggest oil fields in the world, and natural gas wells in the world. We flare all of that gas. All that natural gas has to get flared, and that is energy that just gets wasted. So to me, like, the fact that other countries and people are tapping these energies, like, to me, that's more green energy than any of these proof of stake networks. Like,
Yeah,
the cost of Bitcoin mining is incentivizing people to try to come up with the most renewable, cheapest ways to mine it.
yeah, and then comparatively, the amount of energy that it's taking, like you said, it's a made up narrative.
Yeah.
It's not taking as much energy as people like to present, but it's solving. It has the potential to solve some of the most important issues of our time, as far as in finance and having secure economic systems. I think that this conversation, it people are going to see it uh, biasedly according to what they want, whatever coin they're a maxi towards. So if you're maxi towards Tezos, you're gonna you're gonna talk about the green coins and how this is one of the greenest networks and how Bitcoin is tapping too much energy. But if you're a Bitcoin maxi, you're gonna see the benefit in the proof of work.
Yeah, it's just that's my only issue with a lot of the people in crypto and on these other layers, where it's like the, the attack on it's an attack on Bitcoin, and to me, it's not a rightful attack on Bitcoin. Um, it just plays into this news narrative, and then I go like, yeah, I hate that mentality. Like, that's not a raises all ships mentality. And then on the other side of things, when it's like the Bitcoin maxis, like nobody likes the Bitcoin maxis all that much. Now, do I have an understanding of where they're coming from more so? Absolutely. Um, but yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to be a maxi anything, especially right now as we've seen just some of the biggest collapses across crypto, whether it be
Yeah,
Luna, FTX. Uh, God knows what else is going to just fall apart from this because you
yeah.
could have some other exchanges that fall apart from this, which puts their token to zero. So God knows what plays out from this. Um,
I'm
but
trying
it's
to keep my
interesting.
bag as diversified as they could be, man.
I do want to say. I do want to say that it's two Canadians that essentially are running the show now in the proof of stake networks. Uh, Vitalik, Russian Canadian,
Well, okay.
CZ, Chinese Canadian.
What?
Both
Okay.
like grew up in Canada from like childhood.
I didn't
So
know that.
we're making our name in this space. Yet our government is so fucking far behind. Has no idea any of it's going on.
Well, that's the point. That's the point of this, and is us creating our own type of first individual sovereignty, and then type of DAO type of sovereignty or nation state. New type of borderless nations that are people come together and can sort of uh, govern themselves in a new way. And I don't think there's enough people in the crypto space right now that understand that because a lot of them, like you said, they're there, or at least maybe I haven't connected to as many in the space. It's because I am more NFT based in my communities on Twitter. And so when you think about that, if a lot of people who are in NFTs, maybe they got into crypto. I don't know why they first got into crypto, but NFT is slightly uh, there's more degen type of people in the NFT space. Quick flips, people looking for fast money in some type of way. Whereas I think education about and just exploring in our thought like how we can utilize UTC time. That's our own timing, borderless timing that we can use. UTC timing, which we use a lot in crypto. That's what we're coding in as well. Things to the UTC time. Uh, we have our own currencies. You know, this is like we're starting to form some of the basic things that nations have. Now, nations do have their own form of protection and things of that nature. But maybe in this information age, we have ways of checks and balances through media that we can prevent a lot of what would be unlawful behaviors through just being able to capture what's going on. I like to think about how what we're doing is laying a foundation for something greater than just a little quick come ups or even just the changing of a financial system, but more so creating individual sovereignty and then new types of nation states to an extent.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get into the idea of like an NFT as a passport. Um, that a DAO buying land in 100 different countries that release NFTs, and that NFT gives you access as a passport to live on the land.
Hmm.
Like the you definitely do get into this. changing the way the world operates, where you can get into, this is where you get into like globalism, but you still keep your tribes, because I think this is where this move to the globalism has been necessary, but like it happens so fast, and it's hard because we're still such tribalistic people. Like there's a lot of those studies that it's like once you're past 150 people, like in your tight vicinity, like everybody kind of starts to lose the community sense, and then that's where the individualism starts to really pick up. Uh, so yeah, you start to get into the idea of like you can still have little tribes of like-minded people, but those little tribes of like-minded people are everywhere in the world, and you know where they are, and you can just go to those. You can continue to go to those tribes. You can stay
And
with your
imagine,
tribe, but it's
and
around the world.
imagine some of those people own own and make cars. Imagine some of them have their own satellite uh, ISP internet service provider businesses. Imagine some of them have their own uh, shoe shoe company, and then you have a currency that you're able to trade amongst these people. You don't even need to go to fiat. You don't need to even go to the US dollar. You just value what it is that you're trading with these people in these specific different cryptocurrencies. And if you're in a, a particular community, you're already using the same crypto. But say you have to do business with someone who's in a different current community. Well, then we have decentralized exchanges. There we have a way to really, if people really thought that the IMF, the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, the World Bankers were uh, were oppressive, we have a way to break away from it right now, right now.
Well, and that's the amazing thing, eh? It's the fact that there is literally just it's just a parallel system that's been built. It's not like there was no forceful war. It was just like, here's just a better system that works. We're gonna build it, and it's gonna work kind of in sync right beside your system. And then whenever your system fucking breaks, or it starts leaking and people want to go fucking flee to safety, it's like our thing is our thing's here.
That's why I
And
like
that's
the
all it's
world.
been. But that's why it's been such a threat too, though, right?
Yeah, that's why I like H bar, because they got all them them big corporate council members just sitting there. But if that system ever failed, it, it's like it's still Hedera right there with the technology and the community that was already establishing a value in this technology and how it can be used and in what it can track and things of that nature. So
No, 100%. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see it play over the next couple of years. I wish, I wish this crash didn't like. I mean, the timing of it's not great, obviously, because people don't really have that much passive income to be able to put into investing, and then you know, are you going to invest in crypto after hearing all of this news? Yeah, maybe not. Uh, so it's a tough point to onboard people into right now. But I mean, once everybody has a little bit of crypto, then all of a sudden people do start taking things as payment. I know when I took jujitsu classes for a bit. I was paying in Bitcoin, just because the sensei had heard about Bitcoin, wanted to start getting
mhm.
into it, knew I was into it, so we made a little deal of like, hey, I'll pay you Bitcoin, like whatever. Um, so it's funny how that worked out for me in hindsight. I
Yeah,
haven't actually thought about that, but now that I think about that, that was like 4 months ago when I was doing that. So I think I got pretty cheap classes, to be honest.
Yeah.
For now, give it 10 years. Those will be expensive.
Yeah, man. I Some people done paid me in Bitcoin before, and I just had it sitting there, forgot about it years ago. Boy, that was a good move just to be like, okay, fine, pay me in Bitcoin. Just
Like the
let it
only
sit.
thing that gives the fucking dollar value is the fact that you have to pay your taxes in it. That's the only
And
thing that gives it value. Is that you have to pay
and
your
I
taxes
think
in it, because if you don't, guns show up at your door and we'll take you to a cage.
and even that is is something that, because here's the thing, is that equity law, because in equity law you you can't be compelled to perform. uh well well you can't be compelled to perform in equity law, or to pay these taxes unless you sign some contract with with the government, with the IRS. But then you have to ask, like, where's this contract or
Right.
that you signed with the government that said you had to pay this?
Well, I
Uh,
mean, there's a lot of talk about that's what the whole birth certificate thing is, right? Have you ever dove into that whole conspiracy about
oh yeah,
why your birth certificate, why it's all written in all caps, because you're basically
yeah,
signed up as a corporation uh once you register your birth.
yeah. That's so then that's the other type of law that where you can be compelled to do something is admiralty law. But they can't admit that these courts are operating under admiralty law or the laws of the sea. And so they created a new form of law called statutory jurisdiction. And that's where they link you up with the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, and apply that to your straw man, to that birth certificate, that all capital name. They turn people into corporations pretty much, uh, and that's what money is printed out of. Money is printed out of each birth certificate. But you be reading some of these comments, it look like
Dude,
you
these
are.
comments are fucking killing me. Uh, Bird Dog came in with the nukes don't exist comment. Oh, it's so funny. Uh, Listening, just it reminds me of the podcast earlier that I was listening to, because with the Brian Callen and Sam Tripoli, because he was explaining the structure. He's like, all right, so here's how it works. Like, it starts with royalty. You got like the 13 families. Brian's like, oh, you think the queen has power? He's like, she's kind of got some power. And then he's like, oh wait, no, actually, we gotta go back to the, it's the entities. It's the entities first. And then, you know, it's just there's so many rabbit holes that you can go down. Um, to me,
And
like, I love these conversations, because it it's impossible for anybody to have all the knowledge on something, right? Like, there's just so much to know.
well,
uh
you can. There's infinite to explore in every single point of creation. So anywhere you got stuck and wanted to explore, you could find an infinite rabbit hole there. So there's infinite rabbit holes, and then the distance of each rabbit hole is infinite. So, but all of that is one. All of it is one. And and so if you could go to the one, maybe you it makes it easier to explore all these rabbit holes. But if you get stuck in just one of the rabbit holes, is it still, can you still see the one? It's it's just a consideration.
I love it. Well, Congo, let's see. Was there any other topics that I had on my little list? uh we could we barely got into Kyrie Kanye. um that's something that could go on forever. We'll hold that for next show because we got to talk about the Dave Chappelle monologue too next time. I don't know if you've seen that yet.
Yeah, yeah, I did. I did. I thought it was mild. I thought it was mild sauce. I thought it was good. I was laughing. I enjoyed it, but I could feel the hold. I could feel the hold back. I could
Yeah.
feel him.
So did you
Yo,
hear this? Did you hear the backstory? Or I don't know if it's confirmed, but I heard rumors around it, and that he originally wrote something, gave them a script. They went, yeah, sure, and then he came out with that monologue. So I think there was a bit of a balancing act for him to play.
yeah,
But it's funny you mentioned that because um, last night on the topic of Kanye, I see Kanye go on Timcast, and he basically walked off of Timcast um, because he felt Timcast same kind of thing. There was this moment of obviously Kanye's talking about the kind of the Jewish controlled media, um, and Tim kept referring it to as corporate media, and uh, Kanye basically was just like, "Are we gonna keep doing this? Like, you're saying this, you want to say the same thing as me. You're just not willing to say it, but like." The whole context in between all these points was all the same. It's like, yeah, 9 of the 10 people at this corporation all have this faith. 8 of the 9 people at this corporation have this faith. Um,
and then
yeah,
you have to ask yourself: do they have the faith? Do they have the ethnicity? Do they have the nationality? What is it? What type of Jew?
right.
What type of Jewish person is it? Because there's so many. There's like a one that are just political. It's just a state thing. You have some that are just. It's just their religion. They want nothing to do with the state. You have some. It's just their name, and they was just born in a family, and they be like, my family's Jewish. I don't even know what it means.
Yeah.
It's like I I don't know what it means, and I study a lot of things. I could show you a lot of books around here, and I still don't know what it means. I don't know why certain people were took from Europe in the 1940s and 50s and brought into Palestine, and then they started clearing the land and taking land. Like, I'm confused. Like, literally, I'm genuinely. I'd love to converse with someone at some point to really figure out, like, what was the purpose after, I don't know how many thousands whenever it was that people said they were made the exodus out of those areas. What made them think that they needed to set up a political state by that name and do that by violence, and think that, like, they could really take the name Yisrael, which means God's people, like, take that, but do that with violence against people. Like, I've just been confused about all of that.
Well, that's where it's so confusing for me too. Like, because yeah, again, I'm not Jewish, so I don't really know a whole lot about the religion. But then I've being a conspiracy guy, I haven't read stuff. Um, I've read that that a lot of the Jewish people today aren't studying the same Jewish philosophies that were studied back in the day, um, and that there was kind of like a bait and switch at some point in time. Um, so then and now you have this kind of weird state. Yeah, it's a weird thing. Uh,
It is. It's weird to me.
it's
And I and believe me, I love all people. I love to sit, blaze, chalice, eat, have conversations, consider all types of points of view and ways of life. But I'm just I've been confused for a long time of what the difference like between the religion, the state, the culture, the ethnicity, the race. Like I've heard people say Jewish race. Like what it that is it a race or is it a
Right.
nation? A is it a spiritual thing? Is like
Congo,
I'm
you're gonna fucking be dying watching. You got to watch Jew by Ari Shafir. Uh, dude, he goes on all these
is
topics.
that
It's
gonna give
so
me some?
fucking
It's
funny.
gonna give me some clarity.
It's so funny. Yeah, it's funny because he talks on all these topics because that is it's not like this is a question that is just coming up. This is there's a reason that Jewish people hate this conversation, and that it's these conversations that led into the Holocaust. So I totally understand it from a Jewish person's perspective, where it's like you don't
Mhm,
want this rhetoric being the rhetoric. You've seen this before. History is
mhm,
cyclical. At the same
right.
time, you can't just say everything is anti-Semitic when just because you say the word Jewish. Like just because I say the word Jewish is not anti-Semitic.
Right.
So
And,
there has been moments of what Kanye said and what a lot of these guys have said that there's nothing wrong about what they've said. It's
you know,
just
in Semite comes from Shem, Shem in the Bible, and the the Ethiopic language, one of the languages I practice and learn and pray in, is a Semitic language. And you go to Ethiopia, you find the Falasha or the Beta Israel, which have been Jewish people living there. And I'm not even gonna say Jewish because the ish, I don't even know where that come from. I That's another thing. I don't know what an ish is. Like ish means like something. It's like
right.
orangish, bluish. So it's Judah. It's Judah people been living in Ethiopia, practicing the culture for thousands of years, and the Ark of the Covenant is said to be in Ethiopia, and that wouldn't be said if there wasn't a Hebraic tradition being practiced in Africa all this time, and even in the Book of Genesis, and it mentions Ethiopia when it's talking about the boundaries of the Garden of Eden. So you can't dismiss when Kanye or Kodak Black or Kendrick Lamar says they're Hebrew Israelite.
Hmm.
There there is evidences that one could point to that says yes, there could be truth. There could be much truth to this.
Well, so Ethiopia is so fucking interesting to me because it just plays such a big role, obviously, in like most of these like biblical times. The fact that the Book of Enoch, that's where it still kind of has prevalence in Christianity in Ethiopia. I just watched a video the other day that kind of blew my mind because I got into Nipsey Hussle a little bit. I've been kind of just like been educating myself a lot about like history of in hip hop and like just the rise of hip hop and just all these different industry players and stuff like that. Um, and I've been just doing some research on Nipsey, and I was watching a video the other day that was talking about it was Snoop Dogg actually, talking about Nip being his brother and whatnot. That Nip was related, like part of the bloodline of
Haile Selassie,
yes.
the
Say that name again.
Rastafari. Haile Selassie, Rastafari.
Yeah. So, and this is is this basically like the I'm not gonna say the god or the leader of the Rastafarian, but like
Oh, he is my God. I'll never deny Haile Selassie as being the Almighty, uh, Almighty Supreme. But it's not for all people to know. It's like if you're called and like, yo, something is calling me to know about Haile Selassie and all about this stuff, then you're gonna learn. And when you do, you'll probably end up seeing a similar view if you're called to Rasta. But it's not something I would ever, I would never tell nobody, to
Wow.
that you need to know Rastafari as God. But I'll tell you, as a Rastafari brethren, I know him as the Almighty Christ, the Supreme Father, as the King of all kings.
So from white dude's perspective over here, I've always known the Rasta heavy in like Jamaica, basically. Like the
So,
Jamaica, the islands, like that area. But when I hear that it comes from Ethiopia, I, you know, what's the history on that story?
so of course you know that there are, when we talk about Ethiopia, one, black people in the Americas and the Jamaicas have ancestral connection to Africa, also
Right.
ancestral connection to those lands as well. It's the melanated seed has been everywhere across the whole planet since the beginning of time. But in Ethiopia, uh, the connection is in many ways. There was a brethren in Jamaica named Leonard P. Howell, and he went to he heard that Haile Selassie or Rastafari would be crowned king, and Marcus Garvey had been saying, who was from Jamaica, had been saying, look to the east, look to Africa for the crowning of a black king. And this was like a
Mm.
prophecy related to Christ. But then in the Bible, it also said that there would be a King of Kings and a Lord of Lords that would come in a conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. And that this would be the return of Jesus Christ, that he would be the King of Kings. And
Yeah,
so
because
when
Selassie
I,
is also part of the Solomon bloodline.
he traces his lineage to Solomon and Sheba and David,
Right.
according to the tradition. And so when he came, Leonard P. Howe wanted to be there. He got these pictures of His Majesty. He came back and he started telling the story, passing the pictures around and saying that this is him. This is that king that people have been prophesying about. And then a couple years later, Mussolini wanted to attack Ethiopia because they lost bad in the Battle of Adwa in the 1890s. And this they lost. They had guns. Italy had guns, bombs, all types of stuff. We had sheer shields and spears, and we still was able to chase the Vatican and Rome up out of Ethiopia. But then they wanted to come back again, and little bitch ass Pope blessed the bombs and the mustard gas
Mm.
that was leaving to that was outlawed. It was outlawed to be used in war, but he went and blessed it. And Mussolini and them tried to take over Ethiopia. Selassie fought for 2 days straight on the anti-aircraft gun, shooting planes out the sky. But they they was overpowered. It's Ethiopia and that's Italy. Ethiopia
Mm.
is trying to come into the modern era. That's what Selassie's whole goal was. That's why he joined the League of Nations, because he foresaw what was going to happen. And so the Parliament of Ethiopia was like, we can't have you fighting on this battlefield no more. You need to go to the League of Nations and represent our cause. So he went to the League of Nations, and then he went in and he spoke. But at first, there was all this jeering, like a lot of cheering and booing, like both going on. This was the first time a head of state had ever addressed the League of Nations. They never happened. They tried to tell him, don't do it, don't do it. We can't have you as a head of state address us. And he did as the king. And in the Bible, in Revelations, it say that that they will try to make war with him who sat on the white horse, but he gonna smite them with his word, with a sharp sword that goeth out of his mouth in Revelations chapter 19. And so this was Christ going before the nations, smiting them when he said, "You strike a match today in Ethiopia, tomorrow it'll burn Europe." That was in
Mm.
1936. I could grab a book right now where Woodrow Wilson, I mean Winston Churchill, says that World War II started in Ethiopia. They're not going to tell you this on any of the news, the History Channel, Discovery Channel, the Hitler documentaries, none of that. They're going to leave that out. They're going to leave the Ethiopian Holocaust out. The Holocaust where these people went in chopping off all the priests. They said kill the priests first, kill the women, the ladies, the babies, rape them. They went in there. They went into Ethiopia to do this, but eventually they was pushed out by Haile Selassie, and Ethiopia was known as the only nation in Africa to never be colonized. Actually, it's the only nation in the world to never be colonized. Now, after that happened, all the other nations in Africa were inspired and began to break off the shackles of colonialism. One by one, after that, he formed the Organization of African Unity and helped that. So he in 1966 he went to Jamaica, and all the brethren was there waiting on the island, like, yo, we about to see Christ. And
Mm.
they treated it like that. And he met with them and gave the brethren little gifts and had conversations with the Rasta, and basically said, leave them alone. They know what they're doing. Uh, and he said, I am he, as well. There are other statements he made that definitely display his humility in not seeking to be glorified as God, because that was never his mission. Uh, but as a Rasta, we were able to see and know, and he also confirmed in many ways for I and I, uh, that he's the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, elect of himself, the earth's rightful ruler.
It's fucking. It's a dope story because yeah, it was so amusing to just to hear and yeah, you can make the as soon as you see Nip, you're like, oh that. You see the pictures of the guy, you're like, oh, this fucking totally makes sense. Uh, I guess is Rasta like the main like religious belief in Ethiopia?
No, Rasta isn't a belief in Ethiopia. It's Orthodox Christianity called Tiwahido.
Right.
Tiwahido. And Haile Selassie is Tiwahido. He worshiped Christ, just like Christ worshiped God. And it's it's so that because he's not trying to take the glory unto himself. That was never what it's about. So he was a perfect. He's a defender of the faith, of the ancient faith. This Ethiopian church, it goes to the time of 200 years after Christ was on the
Right.
planet. So it's the most ancient Christian nation that exists to this day since that time. So if people really want to embrace Christianity, that's one of the places that they need to go to get that the full story.
This is what I find so amusing because that's where I get my Book of Enochs, and
That's it.
like it is it's so amusing. Congo, always love the conversations, dude.
Yeah, yeah, it was good to get deep on Rasta at the end.
Oh, I love it, absolutely love it. Yeah, just more knowledge to soak in. No, I love it, dude. Appreciate this big
Yes,
time.
nah, yeah,
Uh,
we'll do it again. We'll try to do it every strong and get more organized. Maybe we could get like bullet points up, and be like do little minutes, 5 minute times of each little topic or whatever.
yeah, yeah, we'll get something going.
Yeah,
I did like this though.
for sure.
It's definitely good to have some just topics just to riff off of because yeah, we could fucking do this shit forever. Again,
Yeah,
we barely touched on some of this stuff.
yeah, man.
Anyway, sir, appreciate it.
It's great.
Same
Thank you,
time
man.
next week, ladies and gents. 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Eastern Tuesdays. What time are you? You're Central, eh? Or I guess
Yeah,
no, it's 8 p.m. Central
that's
Tuesdays.
right. That's right.
9 p.m. Eastern. Whatever that works out to be UTC, you can do the conversion. Ciao, ciao, folks.
Peace.